Welcome to another installment of The Goddess Keys, where we unleash and unlock the tools and the jewels to support us with returning back to the inner knowing of us being God, Goddess, and form. And today we are going to discuss a topic around false magnetism and the ways that false magnetism is utilized in sorcery, in baneful magic. I am of the mindset, number one, that things like black magic or black magic spell work or sorcery, curses, these things are real, and yet they are very impersonal. So sometimes when we think about curses and stuff, it gets really personal, and you could really feel like, wow, this person put a curse on me, or you could know that they did spell work on you, right? But because a lot of what we do operates in the unconscious realms, that person may not be conscious that they're casting spell work on you. And on the flip side, we need to do the deep shadow work and think about, well, are we casting spell work on other beings in the unconscious realms? And a lot of this is done based upon ancestry, and karma. And so one thing to keep in mind is that karma is kind of like a quantum supercomputer, all right? And it's going to program your algorithm and the way that you live your life until it's cleared, okay? So as we ascend, as we awaken, as we self-realize, we step out of becoming the characters in the false matrix. We step out of becoming the players in the false matrix, and we programmed the whole thing. We program what our reality is. We command our reality. But in order to do this, we cannot spiritually bypass, and we need to look at the karma that is present within our lineage. So if you're somebody who feels as though you have been cursed, or there's a lot of spell work cast against you in order to make it so that you're not able to self-realize or ascend or manifest what you know you're here to manifest in this realm or in this dimension, then I'm here to affirm that if you feel that that is happening to you, then it most likely is. This false matrix system has been held together by lots and lots and lots of spell work. And the spell work in the etheric realms definitely looks like webbing. Okay, so it can almost just there could be certain chakras sometimes that are just completely full of different web work of the spell casting. They can also look different curses and stuff can look like different pins and needles, like things pinned to you in the unconscious. And then there are magnets, and I'm going to focus more on magnets today. But if you want to learn more about curses, hexes, and spells, I did do a download on the anatomy of a curse. I'll look for that, and I will attach that to this particular video so that you can kind of delve more into that. And I go into this in a lot more depth on the Patreon as well to support people with uncrossing themselves, deprogramming a lot of the falseness of the reality that we were told was true. And to do that, we need to know the mechanics of things like curses and spells and hexes, okay? And I'm not of the mindset to learn about them and to always be fighting them. I think it's really good to know about them, know about the anatomy of them, get under the hood of them, and then collapse them and delete them from your hard drive. So in order to do that, though, we need to look at the karma that our ancestry is responsible for as it relates to sorcery, black magic spell work. And this could happen in a multitude of ways. This could be maybe your ancestry, maybe they were a part of a coven, maybe they were a part of some kind of cult type dynamic, religious cult type dynamic. There is a spell working or a sorcery that happens when many people are gathered under a particular religion or that sort of thing. Your ancestors just might have just been really big witch doctors or sorcerers, that sort of thing. And that was just kind of how they did things. They just, maybe they did baneful magic. And that might not be something that you're interested in, but If you haven't healed that within your ancestry or bloodline, guess what? Lots of folks might be coming at you with a whole bunch of curses and hexes, and you're like, whoa, 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 what's up? So those are some of the reasons, okay, why this might be coming into your reality. There's also another reason to look into in a little bit more depth. So first of all, work on clearing the karma. Never give yourself the benefit of the doubt as you ascend. That is something that I've learned. Like, really scrutinize yourself from a place of love, okay? A lot of times we want to think that we're so innocent and that we're just the victims here, and we don't deserve this at all. Why is this happening to me, poor me, that sort of thing. We've all been there, okay? No judgment. I've definitely been there, okay? It's a part of the journey. But I have found to always look in the mirror, okay? If it's showing up in your reality, there's a reason for it. And it might have been a past life that you experienced, or a different set of actions that your ancestors participated in. This is just how it works. And you are your ancestors. Their DNA runs through your veins, and your default settings are going to be to do what your ancestors did. So you also might be casting spells in the unconscious without knowing, okay? If you come across somebody who did your ancestors dirty, your default programming might just be immediately to cast a hex or a spell in their field. And according to the false matrix, you would be justified because the karmic supercomputer says that you have license to do that, okay? But we don't want to be caught up in that kind of wheel of tit for tat, because then we don't evolve and it's just miserable for everybody, okay? So we want to transcend that, but that also means looking at what karma we are accountable for, forgiving it, healing it, and releasing it from our field, okay? And I have just put out a subliminal around clearing curses, clearing ancestral curses from your field. And so that might be something you might want to look into if this is something that you are currently seeking to transcend. I've also, if you go to that subliminal, there'll be links to different worksheets that you can do to get real specific on where these curses are held within your energetic field that you can specifically clear for. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it, okay? Because this is how we are the curse breakers, and this is how we become the programmers of our reality when we get really specific about where these things, like the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how, get real detective-like, real Columbo-like, or like Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury. You want to be that way when it comes to your karma, when it comes to what is your karma and what is not your karma, okay? So that's the first thing. Always assume that there's license for this to be going on in your field. Start there. That being said, once you heal and forgive the karma and it's still happening to you, right? And it's like, why is this spell work still going on? Now there's some other investigation that might need to be looked at, okay? And so there is this lineage manipulation thing that does happen in the false matrix, and it's quite common as we ascend. It's not until we get to a certain phase in our ascension that we can become really clear about whose ancestors are ours and then whose have been like basically swapped out for our ancestors, okay? So it does take some time, but one thing that you can do is set the intention right before you go to bed to have an ancestral lineage assessment, okay? If you're feeling unclear about like, is this really my karma? Are these really my ancestors? Which is a very common thing. Then you can set the intention to get more clear on what is yours and what is not yours, okay? And one thing I do work with folks with one-on-one is getting really clear about karmic patterns that are coming up to be cleared and healed. And I do go through a pretty extensive divination system with folks to help people sort out what karma is false and what karma is real, so that you can kind of get to the root of things and heal them. And then also, if you are having instances related to swapped lineages and ancestries, getting really clear as to why, because even if that karma isn't yours or that ancestral line isn't yours, then there's karma for why the swap happened. I know it gets really Rubik's Cube, or like going down the rabbit hole with this kind of stuff. So I've, for my own journey to help me have more peace, fun, and flow throughout this whole process, because I know that this is what I'm here to do, but I don't want to just like be stressed out all day, because it can feel pretty stressful sometimes. But there is a way to do this to where you can reclaim your power and be in joy. Okay. And if that's something that you're seeking support with on your journey, then I will leave my contact information down below, and you can set up a discovery call with me if you're interested in embarking on a coaching journey. And I will share with you what I know and how I've been able to organize life and keep things in flow while going down this very nebulous path. Okay. So I love supporting people and working with folks one-on-one. And I'm also launching a 12-month coaching journey, which starts in 2025, which will consist of working with me one-on-one for 1 year, including a one-on-one personal retreat. And that personal retreat will be selected between you and your ancestors. And that's something that we'll go on that journey together with, to really clear some large manipulations that you might be dealing with. There's a very particular small segment of folks I'm speaking to regarding this. And if this feels like it's something that's in alignment, then reach out to me and we can discuss more about it. Okay, so that being said, sometimes you try to clear the karma, right? Like you're like, okay, fine. Like, okay, I did it. All right. My ancestry did it. I'm going to take accountability. All right. I'm going to heal and forgive and all this kind of stuff. And nothing changes. Like you still have all this spell work being cast against you. Well, then there could be a manipulation of the bloodlines. Okay. Because you can't release karma that's not yours. I know a lot of times we want to do that. Like sometimes we subconsciously want to be the fall guy or fall person, and we want to take on the karma. We want to heal the karma of others, and other people in the subconscious realms kind of expect us to do that, but that's not the way things work. So if you're trying to heal karma that's not yours, it's just going to stay there. And until you send it back, it'll just kind of stay in your field because it hasn't been accounted for. Okay, so there are a lot of lineage manipulations, and they actually happen within the heart space. So honoring your heart, clearing your heart, opening your heart is your best line of defense as it relates to clearing sorcery and like black magic spell work from your program. What is held in the heart space is something called the human hologram. This is kind of like where the birthing center of your not ancestral records, your biological records are kept, okay? And a lot of times the human hologram is what's swapped in the unconscious realms. And sometimes this is done at a very early age so that you don't truly know who you are. And then you're living out the truth of somebody else, and somebody else is living out your truth. This is how that whole destiny swapping thing comes to be. And, there are certain people in this realm who they have different paths based upon their holograms, okay? They can ascend to different, and I want to take out the hierarchy in this, but, their capacity to ascend is more expanded. And with that, there's a lot of prosperity and abundance in that, okay? Because a lot of times, like if you were born with a more expansive capacity to ascend, then it usually means you have like more manifestation powers or more creative powers, these kinds of things. And a lot of times this stuff is harvested within the false matrix because dreams create reality. Okay. So for folks who have that kind of expanded purpose, like your ancestral records are very much coveted. Okay. And so you'll continue to play out this narrative a lot of times of people like trying to take your truth away and wear it as their truth kind of thing. And sometimes there are swaps and you get the lineages that have a lot of karma for sorcery. Okay, have a lot of karma for poverty, for disease, for death, for accident, all that kind of stuff. Okay. And there's a reason for that, which I'll probably go into more depth with on Patreon because, it goes really deep. But that's another reason why you might be experiencing the sorcery. So what do you do about that? How do you get out of this cycle, this toxic loop, right? Well, magnets. Focus on magnetism. So y'all have heard me talk a lot about the magnetism of the great central sun and how we're moving into magnetism, okay? This is true. Right now, our Earth has been basically operating off of an electrical frequency, and that's because the Earth's magnetic field was manipulated by interdimensional beings who basically colonized this planet, known as the Anunnaki from the Pleiades. And you've heard me discuss more about this. And they're not the boogeyman here, okay? There's a lot of other stuff that went down to get the Earth to where it is now, in terms of like people just casually calling Earth a ghetto and they don't want to be on Earth anymore because it's so ghetto and stuff like that. Like, there's a reason for that, and it's not all the Anunnaki's fault. Like, they did their dirt. I'm not saying they didn't, but they're not the boogeyman. They're not the main cause. Okay, even though their cause is the most recent. And so as we ascend, we're going to be contending a lot with the karma of the Anunnaki. Now, that being said, the Anunnaki, there's been a lot of lineage manipulation with the Anunnaki. So you might find that in the unconscious realms, there's karmic cause for you to have lineage manipulations with somebody of an Anunnaki archetype. Basically, because it happened in your ancestry, they might have license to swap ancestries with you, okay? Because maybe they subconsciously don't want to deal with that kind of karma that their ancestry caused, And so as an act of like self-preservation or subconscious self-preservation, they're going to swap lineages with somebody who might have more prosperity and abundance in their field. And the way the false matrix has been set up is through forms of artificial magnetism, which are based more on an electrical frequency, to where this false matrix system has energetically favored beings of more electrical based frequencies, which would include beings of Anunnaki lineage or Orion or Alpha Centauri, to name a few. Okay. And so you might just kind of get into one of these beings' fields and bam, like you just got jacked. And there's license for it. And there's magnets that are supporting this. So there might be like literally inserting magnets in your field. Magnets is a huge tool that has been used in sorcery, because what it does is it kind of like splinters you in time. It can twist your energetic field. Like through a magnet, you can be put outside of the present time, and you can either be twisted into the past or twisted into the future. And time manipulation is how disease can form, is how accident can form, because you're not fully grounded, you're not fully stable, your field is wobbly. And this is where we get into Saturnian magic. So a lot of times people, when they think about baneful magic, one of the first things we consider is Saturn, okay? And what does Saturn rule? It rules time, it rules death, it also rules karma, okay? So sorcery, a lot of times, like beings of sorcerer lineage are able to be in your field and manipulate your field, so because there's a karmic cause for it. They're manipulating you through time. And a lot of times can cause instances of death. And I don't just mean death in a physical sense, but it could be death of many things: ideas, dreams, career, what have you, you name it. Okay. And a lot of times we are being splintered in time. And this is done within our etheric body and also done within our energetic field. So we might have a certain magnet that's like in one of our chakra areas, which is just going to keep us either frozen in the past or frozen in the future, out of alignment with timelessness of the now. And it's going to have us keep replaying certain karmic loops. This is a false magnetism. All right. So the way we transcend this is, number one, you want to cancel the magnet. So the subliminal I just put out will support with that. It's infused with magnetic frequencies, magnetite, and a very strong magnetic frequency, which you can learn more about if you click on that particular subliminal. And that's one way. You also want to find out where that magnet is, okay? And then you want to work on releasing the karma for sorcery in your lineage, or sending back any false karma, which is not of your energetic signature. Okay. One thing that I can definitely say, which was a huge, it was a huge moment of expansion for me on my spiritual path, was when I started working with magnetite. Okay. Magnetite, that stone, that crystal has created miracles in my life. And it was because I didn't know it at the time, but it was because it was canceling false magnetism in my field. And it was helping me to stay in present time, harnessing that energy. So bring magnetite into your life. Okay. And then once you find out where these magnets are within your field, place the magnetite where it is. Okay. That's also going to help you too. And really focus in on canceling the magnet. I'll be sharing more resources on the Patreon as it relates to that. You also want to work with commanding the angels or the angels in your field as well. Because a lot of times there are angels, and remember, not all angels are for our benefit, but there are angels that a lot of times are within our field that are basically like lording over timelines. And they open the gates sometimes to timeline manipulation. So another thing you'd want to do is clear certain karma with like warmongering angels or baneful angels. I actually just posted a decree on the Patreon related to that. So if that's something you're interested in, then you can connect via the Patreon to learn more about that. But yeah, like magnets, not all magnetism is good or something that's helpful to you. One last thing I want to say about artificial magnetism or false magnetism is there will be beings who are a lot of times are of Anu lineage or Alpha Centaurian lineage who have a really strong false magnetism. Okay. And so it's basically like they walk into a room and they're just immediately like their energetic force field is so strong. It's just stripping people all around them. Okay. And so that's something that, and they may not be knowing that they're doing it. A lot of times it's just how they've been set up. Okay. But learning about magnetism from all realms and dimensions, not just the ways that it can make you abundant, but also how it can strip your energetic field, is a really good line of defense to ensuring that you're able to retrieve your power or to not have to experience that karmic encounter in the first place. Okay. And a big piece of that is it's not something that's going to happen overnight, y'all. Okay. You want to start working on embodying the language of light tones. So the language of light is basically a non-verbal magnetic language that we are moving into as a species, not just as a human species, but literally the whole planet is attuning to the language of light. And it's a set of pastel tones and different symbols. Each symbol means a different, I guess, embodiment that we're moving into as we align with the magnetism of the great central sun. There's a total of 144 language of light tones. And, you want to work on, they each build upon the other. So it's kind of like learning the alphabet, You wouldn't just like learn Z and then V and then F and then I, right? You would do it in sequential order, A, B, C, D, like that kind of thing. So you would do that with the language of light tones. So you would want to really, if you focus on like mastering the first 10 though, and that can take some time. But if you start with like the building blocks, that's going to help to build your magnetic field so that you're not as susceptible to being stripped in the unconscious realms, which is really important, especially if you live in a city. If you live in a big city, like really got to work on this sort of stuff, and clearing like artificial false magnetism from your field. Okay. On the Patreon, I also have an erasing the past meditation and connecting with your future self meditation. This is also something that helps because if you enter a karmic encounter with somebody who like splinters you in time, then a lot of times you're like living out past karma that you've already overcome, or you're like addressing karmic agreements in the future that you aren't even ready for yet because like a time portal has been opened up. Like this stuff goes really deep. So you really want to be mindful of this sort of, are you in present time? You know, also your ability to manifest is based upon how much you're able to be in the now. Okay, there's a reason why meditation gets us to stay in the now, stay in the 0 point field, all that kind of stuff. Because if we're like worried about the past or worried about the future, then we're in a disempowered state. And that is why time is manipulated in the way that it is. Okay, so to sum this up, really start tapping into magnetism, and not just from like the way that the law of attraction people want you to focus on it. Like, yeah, become magnetic, because there a lot of times the way like false magnetism works is it can work against beings who are genuinely magnetic, and like basically make it so that like all of your jewels and gems gets like siphoned. And then now all of a sudden you're a magnet for all of the all of the trash, all the stuff people don't want to deal with, all of their shadow. And that's kind of how false magnetism works as well. I spoke about this a little bit in a video I did a few weeks back around black diamond healing, and I'll be sharing more about that too. But so a part of us ascending is reclaiming all that was stripped or siphoned from beings hosting artificial magnetism. And then it's also about us changing our grid work and ascending into a more unity-based grid work, so that we are operating from a stronger magnetic field that's more resonant, and that's going to keep us more in a state of balance instead of like extreme polarity. Okay, so this is also a part of that conversation around uncrossing yourself. Okay, so I did a download like a week ago just around like how we need to get off of this polarity cross, and I did some deep dives into how the polarity cross works. And one thing that was discussed is that it's held up by magnets and mirrors. Okay, so if that's what's oppressing us, then we also want to utilize magnets and mirrors as tools and as a gateway out of the false matrix, so that we are the programmers of our reality. But we also want to see the negative polarity of the magnets and mirrors, and integrate these polarities. So that's where I'm going to end things today. If you are interested in taking a deep dive with me, connect with me with the information that I leave down below. Thank you so much for the folks who have been supporting these downloads and this work. I appreciate y'all so much. And I'm sending you so much love and joy and peace until we meet again. Bye, y'all.